The stranger in the corner, the restaurant buzzed with laughter and quiet chatter, the kind that fills a cozy evening with comfort. Couples leaned into each other, old friends shared wine, and the clinking of glasses created a soft rhythm in the air. Waiters moved smoothly between tables, dressed in black and white, their hands balancing plates of steaming pasta and rich desserts. Everything seemed perfect, almost too perfect, except for one detail. An old man sat alone in the far corner. His clothes were faded, his shoes cracked at the edges. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped a chipped cup of coffee, long gone cold. His eyes, pale and tired, scanned the room, not with hope, but with quiet acceptance. He had no menu. No waiter approached his table. The guests around him barely noticed, or maybe they chose not to. Then the door opened, and a cold gust swept in. Keanu Reeves stepped inside. He wore no disguise, no security, just a simple black jacket, jeans, and a worn gray shirt. A few heads turned. A couple of whispers echoed. Was that really him? Was Keanu Reeves in their neighborhood restaurant? Some reached for their phones, others pretended not to care. But no one expected what he did next. Keanu didn't head toward the reserved tables or the polished host stand. He didn't glance at the wine list or nod at the manager. Instead, his eyes found the old man in the corner, and without a word, he walked straight to him. The restaurant fell into silence. The old man looked up. His hands froze mid-shake. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, pain, disbelief. Keanu didn't speak. He didn't smile for the cameras or wave to the watching eyes. He simply knelt beside the old man, placed a hand gently on his shoulder, and leaned in for a hug. The hug wasn't brief. It wasn't polite. It was full of something deeper. Memory, love, sorrow. The kind of embrace you give someone you haven't seen in years but never forgot. People stared. Phones hovered. Whispers turned to stunned silence. The manager approached, confused, his smile tense. "Sir, do you need another table?" he asked softly, unsure how to handle the situation. Keanu looked up, his voice calm and even. "This man," he said, "he taught me everything when I had nothing." No one moved. The old man's eyes welled up. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. "He doesn't look like much to you," Keanu continued, his hand still on the man's shoulder. "But when I was 15 and sleeping behind a closed bookstore, this man was the only one who gave me food. He gave me a coat, and when I got sick, he took me to a clinic. I never saw him again after that." The silence grew thicker. The old man finally spoke, his voice rough and dry. "I didn't know it was you," he whispered. Keanu smiled faintly. "I never forgot you." Somewhere in the restaurant, someone lowered their phone. Someone else wiped a tear. A young couple reached for each other's hands without saying why. The manager stepped back, unsure what to say. Keanu turned to him. "Can we get a table?" he asked, motioning to the man beside him. "A proper one, and something hot. Not for me, for him." The manager nodded quickly and scrambled to clear a nearby booth. As they stood, Keanu held the old man's elbow gently, helping him up. People parted silently, letting them pass. Not one person laughed, not one sneered. They watched with the kind of stillness reserved for moments that feel sacred. As the two men sat down, Keanu leaned in again and said something no one else heard. The old man nodded slowly. His lips trembled. And then, just for a second, he smiled. The waitress brought soup. Real soup. Steaming. Thick. Full of warmth. The old man stared at it like he wasn't sure if it was real. Keanu handed him a spoon, and with shaking hands, the man took the first bite. "I thought you'd forgotten me," he said, barely above a whisper. Keanu shook his head. I searched. For years. But you moved. And I didn't know your name. The old man chuckled softly, a dry sound. People forget the nameless. Keanu looked him in the eye. Not all people. And at that exact moment, a young boy at the next table leaned over and asked his mother in a quiet voice, "Who is he?" "Mom?" The old man. His mother stared, then whispered, "I don't know, sweetheart. But I think we're about to find out." The boy didn't blink, because something about that old man had changed. Not his clothes, not his age, but his presence. He no longer looked like a shadow in the corner. He looked like someone the world should have remembered, but didn't. And now, maybe too late. It finally had. As Keanu lifted the spoon to taste the same soup, the old man reached into his coat pocket. His fingers touched something small and sharp, something wrapped in old cloth. He paused, looked at Keanu with trembling lips and said, "There's something I have to tell you. It's about your mother." His voice broke. The spoon froze in Keanu's hand, and the entire restaurant held its breath. The cloth bundle, and a memory buried deep. Keanu's fingers tightened slightly around the spoon, but he didn't lift it again. The old man's words echoed louder than any sound in the room. "It's about your mother." The sentence didn't just stir his curiosity. It struck something raw, something hidden under years of silence and controlled emotions. For a second, his expression cracked, not fully, not publicly, just enough for anyone paying attention to see the shift in his eyes. Confusion, a flicker of dread, and then hope. The old man's hand trembled more as he slowly brought out the cloth bundle. It was no larger than a matchbox. The cloth was frayed, the corners stained by time and weather. He held it gently, as if it were made of glass, his thumb rubbing over it like he had done so many times before in private. The weight of it wasn't in its size. It was in its history. In the memories stitched between the threads. Keanu reached out, not to take it, but to steady the man's hand. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice low, cautious, almost afraid of the answer. The old man nodded. "I've waited too long. I kept this safe because I made her a promise. I didn't know she was your mother until you hugged me." His eyes glistened now, not just with age, but with burden. "I looked into your face and I saw her again." The cloth unraveled slowly. Inside was a ring, silver, worn. The kind of simple, elegant design that didn't come from money but from love. The initials engraved on the inside were tiny and faded, but Keanu knew them. He knew them the moment his eyes fell on the curve of the metal. They were his mother's. This was hers, he whispered, the words catching in his throat. The old man nodded again, but there was a sadness in his smile. "She gave it to me the night she left the shelter. She said if anything ever happened to her, if the world ever tried to erase her, to give this to her son. She said her son would understand." Keanu's breath caught. He reached up and touched, his face as if trying to ground himself. "She died when I was 17. The official report said accident. She was alone." The old man lowered his head. She wasn't alone. And just like that, time split in two for Keanu. For years, he had accepted what he was told. A sudden death, no witnesses, no explanation, no closure, just emptiness. Now, in a quiet booth of a restaurant filled with strangers, a man no one had noticed had cracked open a door Keanu never expected to see again. "Tell me what happened," Keanu said, voice shaking now. "All of it." The old man didn't look up. Instead, his words began slow, pulled from the corners of a soul that had carried guilt for too long. She was running from something. Not from someone. From something bigger. Something she wouldn't name. She stayed in the shelter for 2 nights. That's all. But on the second night, She woke me up. She was crying, but not out of fear. It was the kind of cry people make when they know they're about to disappear, and no one will remember them. She gave me the ring and told me her son would find me. She said her son was brave, that he would survive the cold. Keanu's hand closed around the ring now, as if holding onto a piece of his past he thought he had lost forever. The old man looked up again. I didn't think I'd live long enough to see you again. I didn't even know your name until I saw your eyes. Keanu blinked fast, trying to hold back tears that were suddenly too close. Why didn't anyone believe her? He asked, almost to himself. Why did no one help her? The old man sighed. Because she didn't ask. She protected you with silence. She didn't want you hunted the way she was. Those words hit harder than any blow. The restaurant, unaware of the full story, still watched in quiet awe. They saw something beautiful, though they didn't understand it. Two men, one famous, one forgotten, joined by a story no headline would ever tell. A story about a woman lost too soon and a promise kept in shadows. Keanu finally leaned back, the ring still in his hand. I was wrong, he whispered. The old man tilted his head. About what? Keanu looked at him with something beyond gratitude. You didn't just save me once. You saved me again today, by not forgetting her. A tear slipped down the old man's cheek, and for the first time that night, he let it fall. Just then, the manager approached again, this time more careful. Mr. Reeves, he said gently, the press is outside. They're trying to get in. Keanu didn't flinch. Tell them no pictures. Tell them this isn't for headlines. But before the manager could walk away, Keanu stood. He held up the ring for a moment, facing the quiet restaurant crowd. Do you know what this is? He asked softly. This is memory. This is sacrifice. This is someone who mattered. His voice cracked. So the next time you see someone sitting alone, he added, turning to look at each table, ask yourself, what story are you ignoring? He sat down again, quietly, simply, and no one said a word. The old man cleared his throat, voice more steady now. There's one more thing she told me, he said slowly. A name. A name she said you should never speak aloud, unless you're ready to face them. Keanu's eyes sharpened. What name? The old man leaned in, and as he whispered it, Keanu's jaw tightened. The camera flash from outside the restaurant pulsed through the window, and everything suddenly felt darker. The name that should not be spoken, the name slipped from the old man's lips like a crack in the foundation of everything Keanu thought he understood. A simple name, one syllable. But it didn't belong to anyone he had ever mentioned in public. Not in interviews, not in films, not even in his quiet private moments. It was a name buried so deep in his past that hearing it now felt like a sudden drop in his chest, like gravity had shifted and pulled him into a space he wasn't ready to return to. Keanu stared at the old man, unmoving. The soft glow from the restaurant lights reflected in his eyes, but they didn't shine. They darkened. Who told you that name? Keanu asked, his voice barely above a breath. His spoon, still full of untouched soup, sat forgotten on the edge of the bowl. The old man leaned back slowly, his face growing pale. Your mother. The night she gave me the ring. She said if anything happened to her, if you ever found me. And I said the name. Then you'd know the truth wasn't an accident. And you'd understand that you were never just a target of misfortune. You were part of something much larger. Keanu blinked slowly. The air seemed colder now, like the name had stolen the warmth from the room. No one knew that name, not even my closest friends. Your mother knew it, the old man replied, and she feared it more than death. Keanu looked away for a long moment, his jaw clenched. Then he exhaled and whispered, So they're still alive. More than alive, the old man said. They're watching. Outside, the flashes continued. Cameras, reporters, people, pressed against the glass, trying to get a photo of Keanu Reeves having dinner with a forgotten man. But none of them knew that inside that booth, decades of secrets were unraveling faster than anyone could stop. Keanu leaned forward again, voice low and urgent. Did she say why that name mattered? Not directly, the old man answered. She said it was the name that ruined her life and nearly took yours. She said they wanted you gone, but she hid you in plain sight. Acting, fame, all of it. It wasn't just a path, it was protection. The bigger your name got, the harder it became for them to erase you quietly. Keanu felt dizzy for a moment. The room seemed to tilt. He had always believed his mother's death was tragic, senseless. He had told himself the past didn't need answers, just peace. But now the truth was dragging him backward, and peace was a luxury he never really had. The old man lowered his head. There's something else. She left behind a journal. I couldn't read all of it. The ink faded, but it's not far from here. It's in the place where she used to hide when she was afraid. It's still there, untouched. Keanu's heart began to race. You know where it is? Yes, the man whispered. But getting there won't be easy. It's not a place for tourists or headlines. And if they find out you're looking, then I'll be hunted, Keanu said, finishing the thought for him. You already are, the old man replied quietly. Keanu looked down at the ring in his palm, the cool metal pressing into his skin. Suddenly, the symbol felt heavier than before. Heavier with meaning, with memory, with warning. The waitress brought a fresh pot of coffee, oblivious to the war brewing behind the stillness of the table. Anything else, gentlemen? She asked, smiling kindly. Keanu looked up, his expression calm again, rehearsed, controlled. Just the check, please. As she walked away, the old man asked softly, Are you ready for this? Keanu nodded slowly. I've spent my life pretending. I was done with the past. Maybe it's time to stop pretending. The old man smiled faintly. She said you'd be brave. Keanu stood and helped the man to his feet again. The restaurant hadn't stopped watching, but now their curiosity came with respect. No phones rose, no shouts were made. They simply watched in silence as something sacred passed before them. But as they stepped outside, the flashing lights hit like thunder. Keanu, who is that man? Are you filming a new movie? What's in your hand? Keanu didn't answer. He simply guided the old man into the black sedan parked at the curb. But before getting in, he turned toward the cameras, and just once he looked directly into the lens of the nearest one. His expression was calm, unreadable, but his eyes were daring someone to follow. As the car pulled away, the old man reached into his coat again. But instead of a journal, he pulled out a small old photo, cracked at the corners, faded in the center. It was a picture of a woman, and behind her, in the shadows, stood a figure half erased by time. Keanu took one look at the photo and froze. That's him. He whispered. Yes, the old man said, voice grave. And he's not just watching, he's already moving. The face behind the shadows. The road outside the restaurant blurred behind the tinted windows. Raindrops began to fall, tapping softly against the glass like a rhythm too gentle to match the storm building inside Keanu's chest. He held the old photo in both hands, staring at it like it might vanish if he blinked. The image was faint, grainy with age, but the face in the shadows behind his mother was not unfamiliar. It wasn't just some stranger. It wasn't even someone forgotten. It was someone Keanu had seen before, on stage, on screens, in rooms, of influence, and in places where secrets thrived beneath handshakes. His name wasn't in any script, but his presence lingered in the air of the elite. Always silent, always powerful, always hidden behind the illusion of safety. Keanu's voice, when it finally came, was hollow, I thought he died years ago. The old man beside him shook his, head slowly. No. That was the lie they wanted you to believe. He didn't die. He changed names, changed faces. But he never stopped watching. And your mother knew he wouldn't stop. Keanu's jaw clenched. He was a friend of my mother's once. He helped her get a job, helped her find housing. I remember him coming by the apartment, always in a suit, always smiling, but she never let him talk to me alone. Not once. Because she didn't trust him, the old man said. Keanu nodded slowly. He offered to take care of us after my father left. I remember her turning him down, then crying when she thought I couldn't hear. The old man lowered his gaze. She knew. His kindness came with a price. Keanu stared out the window again. The city lights flickered in puddles below as they drove through quiet neighborhoods. So why did he come after me? Because you were her legacy, the old man answered. And she had something he wanted, something she hid before she died. Keanu turned, eyes sharp. What did she hide? That, the old man said, is in the journal. And if it's still where she left it, it holds the truth about why she ran, what she protected, and why they tried to erase her. The car turned down a narrow alley behind an old chapel, its brick walls cracked with age and its windows darkened by time. There were no lights here, no signs, no noise. It was the kind of place people forgot existed. But Keanu remembered. This was where she used to bring me when she didn't feel safe, he whispered. She said no one would think to look for us near something that sacred. They stepped out into the misting rain. The alley smelled of wet stone and rusted iron. The chapel door groaned as it opened, revealing a forgotten silence inside. Wooden pews layered in dust. Broken stained glass that scattered dull colors across the cold floor. A place untouched. Keanu's steps echoed as he moved toward the far wall. The old man followed, slower now, his breath labored. She left it behind the altar, he whispered. Underneath. Keanu knelt, brushing away the debris. There, just as he remembered, was a hidden panel beneath a loose stone tile. He pried. It opened with his hands, and inside, wrapped in old canvas and twine, was a leather-bound book. Fragile, trembling with secrets. His hands trembled as he lifted it out. He opened the first page. Her handwriting was there. Imperfect, but strong. A line written just for him. If you're reading this, it means you survived. Keanu swallowed hard. This journal. It might answer everything, he said, voice barely holding together. The old man nodded. But you must be careful. Every word in that book puts you closer to danger. Keanu turned to the next page and froze. There, pasted beside her words, was another photo. A baby. His baby picture. But not just any version. He wore something around his neck, a chain with a pendant he no longer remembered. Etched into it was a symbol. One he hadn't seen since the night of the fire that took their old apartment. He touched the drawing of the symbol. A strange shape with curved edges and a single dot in the center. I thought this burned. They tried to destroy it, the old man whispered. But she had a copy, and now it's the key. Keanu stood slowly, the journal still in his hands. We can't stay here. If they know we're looking, they'll come. They already have, the old man said, motioning toward the door. Outside, the street was no longer empty. A black car had parked across the alley, its windows tinted, its engine still. No movement, no lights. But Keanu knew someone was inside, watching. Keanu tucked the journal into his jacket and pulled the old man behind a pillar. His voice dropped to a whisper. How far are you willing to go? The old man met his eyes, fierce despite the years. I've lived too long with silence. I'll go as far as it takes. A figure stepped out of the car, tall, suited, and smiling. the same smile Keanu remembered from decades ago. The man with the smile that never aged, Keanu's breath stilled. The cold night air suddenly felt thicker, as if the darkness itself had begun to watch. The man stepping out of the black car moved with calm precision. No rush, no hesitation, just the quiet confidence of someone who had already won 1,000 unseen games. His suit was sharp, pressed without a single wrinkle. His hair silver at the edges now, but his face looked almost untouched by time. The smile he wore hadn't changed either. It was the same one Keanu remembered from his childhood. It wasn't the warm kind. It wasn't made of joy. It was built from control, from knowing things other people didn't, from holding power not through fear, but through silence. And now, after all these years, it had returned, flashing at the edge of the alley like a secret long-buried clawing its way back into the light. "Stay behind me," Keanu whispered to the old man, his fingers brushing the journal beneath his. "Jacket." The old man nodded, but his eyes were locked on the approaching figure. "He was supposed to be dead. He isn't," Keanu said, stepping forward slowly. The suited man stopped a few feet away, his eyes scanning Keanu's face like he was confirming something that had only been theory until now. Then, finally, he spoke. "You've grown into the name well," he said softly. "Just like your mother feared." Keanu didn't respond. "You found the book," the man continued, taking another step forward. "I wondered how long it would take. Though I must admit, you're slower than she was. She had fire." Keanu's fists clenched. "You lied about her death. You orchestrated it." The man's smile never wavered. "Orchestrated is such a strong word. I would say, encourage the right circumstances." Rage began to build behind Keanu's eyes, but he kept his voice steady. "She trusted you once." "Yes," the man nodded. "And that was her mistake. One I made sure you would never repeat. But even mistakes can leave legacies. Unfortunately, hers left behind something more dangerous than she ever understood." He paused, glancing toward the chapel's dark frame. "That book, it doesn't belong to you." "It belonged to her," Keanu shot back. "She was a carrier," the man said, his voice growing darker now, lower. "Your mother wasn't just hiding. She was protecting something. Ancient, something powerful, and now it's inside you." The silence that followed those words felt like a vacuum. Keanu blinked, trying to process. "What do you mean?" "Inside me." The man looked almost amused. "You think you became who you are by chance? Talent? Willpower? No. You were built from something older, something coded. And when she died, you inherited more than her pain." The journal suddenly felt heavier against Keanu's chest. His heartbeat quickened. Not from fear, from a dawning realization. "You're lying," he said, but the old man behind him shook his head slowly. "No, he's not." Keanu turned, eyes wide. "Your mother, she used to talk in her sleep," the old man said, "about visions, about voices. She believed you were marked, not cursed, but chosen. She said they would come for you the moment you remembered who you really were." The man in the suit took another step. "Give me the journal, Keanu. You don't know what you're holding." "Open it too far and you'll lose yourself." Keanu didn't move. "I already did," he whispered, "when she died." Without warning, the suited man raised his hand, and the street lamp above them shattered in a burst of sparks. Glass rained down, and in that moment of chaos, he rushed forward. But Keanu was faster. He grabbed the old man, pulling him into the chapel. The door slammed behind them. Wood splintered. They moved through the dust and dark, deeper into the heart of the building. "There's a trap door behind the organ," the old man gasped. Keanu found it and pried it open. Stairs led down into a stone tunnel. damp and echoing with history. They descended fast, the journal tight in Keanu's hands. Behind them, the chapel door creaked again. He was following, the man with the smile that never aged. Deep underground, the tunnel opened into a circular chamber, lit by a faint blue glow pulsing from a mark carved into the floor, the same symbol from Keanu's baby pendant. He stepped forward. The symbol lit brighter. The old man whispered, "Your mother said if you ever stood here, you'd be forced to choose." Keanu turned, breathing hard. "Choose what?" The old man looked into his eyes. "Who you are, or who they want you to be." The truth beneath the stone. Keanu stood still at the edge of the glowing symbol, his breath shallow, his heart pounding with something far deeper than fear. The blue light beneath his feet pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, steady, alive. It was not just a mark carved into stone. It was old. It was waiting. And now, it was waking up. The old man's voice trembled behind him. "This is what she protected. Not just a journal. Not just you. This place. This choice." Keanu looked down at the journal still clutched in his hand. The leather cover was damp with sweat, the pages trembling with every pulse of light around them. He turned to the last page, one he hadn't dared read yet. The handwriting was rushed, uneven. "If you reach this place, it means they failed to stop you. It means you're ready to decide. You have his blood, Keanu, but you have my will. And the world will need you to choose." He read the words again. And again. His blood. His mother had never spoken of his father, not once. Not a photo, not a name. Just silence. Now, he understood. The man upstairs, the one in the suit with the ageless smile, he wasn't just the enemy, he was part of him. Not by love, by force. "He's my father," Keanu whispered, the words almost choking him. The old man stepped back, his eyes wide with grief. "She never said it aloud, but I always feared that was the truth." "Why didn't she tell me?" Keanu asked, turning sharply. "Why hide this?" "Because she didn't want you to carry her pain. She wanted you to walk freely, not bound by blood, but by the choices you made." Keanu looked down again at the symbol. It had stopped pulsing. Now it waited. It recognized something in him. And he knew, deep inside, this wasn't just a chamber beneath a chapel. This was a gate, a threshold between who he was and what he was capable of becoming. Footsteps echoed above them. The man was coming, slowly, deliberately. Keanu stepped forward. As his foot touched the center of the glowing mark, a rush of wind spiraled upward. And images filled his vision. His mother, younger, holding him as a baby, running in the rain, leaving behind the pendant, drawing this very symbol with trembling hands. And behind it all, shadows, men in suits, voices whispering about a child who would one day surpass his father. The wind stopped, and Keanu understood. He was never supposed to be just a man. He was the unfinished half of something powerful, something dangerous. But what his mother had given him, what she died to protect, was choice, not power, not control, but the right to choose what kind of legacy would live through him. A crack opened in the stone beneath his feet, revealing a second bundle, smaller than the journal, wrapped in silk. He reached in and pulled it out. It was the pendant from the photo, the original. Somehow it had survived. He slipped it around his neck. Behind him, the footsteps reached the bottom of the tunnel. The suited man emerged from the shadows, eyes calm but sharper now. "You don't understand what you're holding," he said. "That pendant activates a part of you that can't be undone. It connects you to something that will tear the world in two." Keanu didn't flinch. "Then I'll choose which half survives." The man stepped forward. "You're just an actor, Keanu. You've been playing parts your whole life. This is not your stage." Keanu nodded once. You're right. It's not a stage. It's a battlefield. The blue glow erupted, sudden, blinding. The symbol beneath him surged upward, a ring of light spinning into the air, forcing the suited man back with a shout. The air shook with a low hum, ancient and alive. Keanu closed his eyes and whispered, I am not you. The light exploded outward. When it faded, the man was on the floor, motionless. Not dead, but stripped. The power in him had been drawn away, the connection severed. He lay still, his smile gone. The chamber grew quiet again. The old man stepped, beside Keanu, eyes wide. What did you do? Keanu looked down at the symbol, now fading into cold stone. I made a choice. But what happens now? Keanu turned, eyes softer now, clearer. Now, we finish what she started. We find the others like him, and we stop them. Outside, dawn had begun to rise. The city awoke unaware of what had just shifted beneath its streets. Keanu stepped out into the light, the journal tucked away, the pendant warm against his chest. People would still see him as a movie star, a celebrity, but somewhere, in places still untouched by light, forces would whisper that something ancient had returned, not a weapon, not a curse, but a man who remembered the power of a promise made in silence, a son who chose the weight of truth, and the world would never be the same again.